Hi everybody, today we want to talk about two stories that are out of the UK. Jim, the first one, a group of British newspapers want Google and Facebook investigated. Talk a little bit about that story.
Well, it's really interesting. It highlights a number of issues, a lot to unpack there. One is fake news. They reference fake news throughout their release, and they say that, hey, Facebook is playing especially an important role. There's a lot of concern about fake news, and they talk about the lack of transparency. And that's really one of the enablers of fake news is advertisers placing ads through an ecosystem that has programmatic and other elements involved, and they don't even realize the types of content they're sponsoring. And as we've talked about many times before, the economic benefit that people get from running fake news is what motivates them to do it, far more than any ideological reason.
One of the things that we noticed looking at fake news was that the president has used the term fake news to basically call out, a news outlet or an organization, very different than what
we would define as fake news.
Or
Let's be clear about our terminology here. We define fake news as effectively clickbait, right? It's false, just completely fabricated story that never meant to be true to begin with, just intended to generate an emotional response and a click to go along with it, and usually for economic return, not ideological reasons. President Trump has effectively redefined the term fake news because he continues to use it as an accusation against media outlets that he doesn't either like their coverage or their position.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
And so I think it's really easy to conflate the two things together. Let's make sure we're not talking about President Trump's definition, if you will, of fake news, when we're really trying to get at the clickbait and the underlying economic reasons that drive fake news.
There are two very different things. Also, the other story out of the UK is the fact that we learned, according to Media Post, that British newspapers might, because of their coverage, may have led to Brexit.
I make no judgments on the merits of whether that was or wasn't true, but I think it's a fascinating story because what it highlights is this ongoing question of bias, and was the Brexit situation fairly reported? Were the benefits and disadvantages of the European Union fairly reported? And they were talking over a multi-year period. This is not just leading up to the election. And I think what we've got is the same battle going on about bias and what's really true and what's accurate, and it's moving to a different battlefield, right? Originally, that battle was sort of borne out in print and in newspapers, magazines. Then it moved to digital and the web. Now it's moved to social. I think this dialogue is really quite healthy to understand in the age of mobile consumption, we have the ability to consume more information than we ever could in human history more quickly. And the downside of that is we can consume either false or biased information as well as true and unbiased, and recognizing those are very subjective terms to determine what's biased and unbiased.
The thing that I thought was struck me as interesting in the Media Post piece was that some of the tabloids with perhaps wide circulation, they tend to probably express opinions a little bit more, and appeal to emotions, whereas the straight, more buttoned up.
Well, you're going to notice a common theme here, right? What's the common theme between the first and the second topic? It is generating emotions to generate clicks. It's interesting. I mean, if you had asked me, say, 20 years ago, let's go back before the internet and before social media, certainly 20 or 30 years ago, if you could have a scenario where effectively all of the world's information was instantly available to you on a device in your pocket, would that be a good thing? I think you would almost certainly have had to say yes. Of course it would be.
Yeah.
But this is one of the downsides, right? Information overload and a tendency to try to cut through the clutter by generating an emotional and inflammatory response. And what happens when people do that? And you start getting into all kinds of topics we've talked about, filter bubbles and bias and fake news and all the questions about what really is biased and unbiased. They're all very logical manifestations of the fact that we've got so much information available to us.